Palmer's podcast. Get on it, folks. You need to watch it everywhere.
You're listening to Stu's Wrestling Podcast. It's time for British Wrestling's sharpshooter, your host, Stu Palmer.
It's episode 86 of Stu's Wrestling Podcast, and my guest today is former WCW, All Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA and WWE star Kwee Wee. Kwee Wee, known by his real name Allan Funk, was trained at the world famous WCW Power Plant in the late 90s. We speak about all the guys he was in there with at the time. Everyone who you saw in the late 90s in WCW was in and around the power plant. Some great stories. Also, some great stuff about Louis Theroux's documentary in the late 90s, which was featuring WCW, and he was at the power plant, and it was funny to hear Allan talk about Sarge drilling Louis, which led to him being sick various times. Allan talks about developing the Kwee Wee character, being valeted by Sharmell Huffman, who went as Paisley when she was one of the Nitro girls in WCW. And he also talks about his time in All Japan, where he got to take on the great Muta and Hayashi, legends of the Japanese game. Allan discusses his visits to Ribera Steakhouse in Japan, the famous restaurant where all the wrestlers frequent. They got jackets, they even get photos that are put on the wall. He had some fond memories of his time in Japan. Allan also talks about a very personal thing that happened to him in the ring in Finland. It nearly caused him to die. It was hard for him sharing that, and I appreciate him telling it, something so close to his heart that happened to him, and that was on a tour to Finland. You can also catch Allan with his podcast on the MWA Podcast Network. It is Get Funked every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time in the USA, midnight here in the UK on a Friday. He's had some great guests, some ex-WCW guys. Molly Holly's been on too. So yeah, without further ado, my guest for episode 86 of Stu's Wrestling Podcast is former WCW, TNA, All Japan Pro Wrestling and WWE talent, Kwee Wee, known by his real name, Allan Funk. Enjoy. My guest, all the way from the good old US of A via Georgia. He's originally from Ohio. It is Allan Funk, the host of MWA Get Funked, his new podcast show, which I want to get into firstly, and former WCW superstar Kwee Wee back in the day. And you went by your real name when you first came in as Allan Funk. How you doing, man?
Yeah. Hey, man. Good. Thanks for having me on, buddy.
I'd just like to ask about Get Funked and how it's been going. The guests you've had on. We'll start with that.
Yeah, man. So I was, I don't know if there's a guy named Piers Dawson who's been doing podcasts for about a year out of Australia. So he had me on a show one day, and he liked the interview, and he thought I had good charisma, and he said he liked everything about how the podcast went. So fast forward to about a year later, he asked me if I wanted to be part of that MWA podcast network, and I know a lot of people, so I can usually get some pretty good guests on, which I've already had. I'm on my 7th show this Thursday. It's live Thursday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern time in the States. So that'd be what you 5 hours ahead, right?
2 p.m.
2 p.m.
No,
Okay.
I'm going the wrong way. On 12 a.m. 12 a.m. on a Friday here. That would be.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So so I started. We got I don't know if you know who Kingpin Angel Medina is from. He's one of the original.
I do.
Baldy's from ECW. He's doing a show on that podcast as well, MWA Podcast Network, Killing the Business. It's on Friday nights. He's doing pretty well. So we got a pretty good crew on that. We got the Dead Presidents, did a lot of work around the States. I think they were overseas quite a bit too. They got a show on there. So the MWA Podcast Network, we're going to start making waves here in the future.
Absolutely. I know Piers very well. Me and Piers connected over 12 months ago, and he's great guy. It's great to see that the network's going from strength to strength too. Great diversity with the shows. Absolutely.
Yeah. We got a mixture of shows. So, you turn in the Angels, and he just always, it's called Killing the Business for a reason, because they're just talking about, news that's going on, stuff most people don't want to talk about.
There's not many people doing that either. So it's quite a niche, thing. It's a niche thing.
Well, it's too easy to get heat in the wrestling business, and you never know when someone might want to use you.
That's it. Absolutely. So yeah, it's cool to hear. Also, who have you had on previously, just for the listeners and viewers to know?
Yeah. Well, last week, Thursday, I had Molly Holly, which is WWE Hall of Famer. You don't get much bigger than Molly Holly, and she's a great girl. And I've been friends with her for a lot of years. She every time when she came down to Atlanta, she'd stay at my place because we've been good friends from the power plant, for the last 22 years. So I figured I was hoping I wouldn't have any trouble getting her on, but that was a good get for a podcast to have Molly Holly on. She just got inducted to the WWE Hall of Fame, and she's incredible. And well, you might know Chuck Palumbo. He was with Billy.
Absolutely.
So I had Chuck on. Let's see. I had a independent worker named RJ Brewer on. I used to work with Lucha Libre USA.
Yep.
Great guy. Had Kid Romeo from WCW, first ever tag team cruiserweight champions. They beat Rey Mysterio and Kidman on the last agreed pay-per-view to get them belts. So I had Kid Romeo on, and I got some. I haven't confirmed, I guess, for this week, but it's going to be a good one.
Absolutely. Quite the mix of guys there. And Molly Holly, fantastic, her getting inducted recently into the Hall of Fame. And you see the other female wrestlers, how much high esteem those girls hold her in. And also the guys as well. So well respected, isn't she?
Well, let me tell you something, man. People don't realize how good of a worker she is. She trained originally with Macho Man's brother, Lanny Poffo. And then he directed her towards Dean Malenko, and she trained under Dean Malenko. So, I mean, Dean Malenko, that name speaks for itself, and she could work with anybody, man. She could work with a guy. It doesn't matter. She's a I would say, even though she's a friend of mine, I'm not trying to toot her horn just because she's my friend, but she's probably the best female worker. She's in the top 3 of all time for sure.
Everything they gave her in WWE as well, the superhero gimmick with Shane Helms, and then when they made her like more of a straight person, a hard woman persona as well, she just rose to every challenge she was given, and character development as well, I found as a fan.
Oh yeah, well they say it's when you're in the wrestling business, they try to give you a gimmick, or they want to give you a gimmick. It doesn't always work this way. That you're comfortable doing. It's kind of your personality, and she's such a nice girl, and that's why people liked her, because she's one of those people that you can't not like her, So, and when she was a heel doing the heel stuff, it made it even more, it just shows you how talented she is to make people not like her, because it's hard to not like her.
Absolutely. I think you spoke briefly there about the power plant. I've got to ask you about training there. It was in-house with WCW. WWE weren't doing that, were they? They had like developmental territories. You went and did it there. How was it being in-house at WCW and being trained by Sarge and the guys there? How tough was it, Allan?
Well, first let me say, WWE's doing that now, so they probably figured out it was probably better doing it that way. Because you got an eye on your guys, what's going on, you know what I mean? Well, first you got to go through a 3-day tryout down there, and they don't just let anybody walk in the door and train down there. Once you make it through the 3-day tryout, which is slim and none, Chuck and I, everybody I've had on my podcast, we kind of touched base on the power plant. People don't realize how hard that place was. Now you had guys that just got out of the military recently or whatever, and they're in shape. They said they would leave. They'd say, screw this. I'd rather go back to 6 weeks of boot camp or 8 weeks of boot camp or whatever it is. They said it was that brutal. My tryout, I broke my nose. 3 days, I broke my nose. And that was the first day, and I couldn't quit, There was 30 guys in my class that started out the first day. Probably within an hour, there was maybe 5 or 6 of us left within an hour. That's how bad it is. So, you literally get the shit beat out of you. You get kicked, you get punched. Like I said, I broke my nose. Remember Prince Ikea?
Absolutely.
So he was in there, and that's when I got a lot of respect for Mike. That's his real name. After that first day, man, he took me in the ring, and you're going down there, and I'm from a small town, Ohio, and I was pretty grounded. I would say, and people that know me would say the same thing. I'm not arrogant, and I'm not cocky. I'm sometimes confident, but I went in there, knowing that I was going to make it, but I didn't perceive that as I was being, nothing you guys can do, whatever. But I tell you what, Mike got me in the ring and he beat the shit out of me. Like he tossed me around like a little kid. And I got a lot of respect for Mike. Some guys would take that the wrong way. Their job down there at that WCW Power Plant at this time was to have 100% failure. Because they wanted, if you were going to make it, you had to have heart, and you weren't going to make it if you didn't. And me and a couple other guys tried to calculate how many like squats and push-ups and stuff we do down there. At least 1,500 squats. In between there, you're doing push-ups. You're running outside in the heat and the humidity of Atlanta, Georgia. When I went through in July, it was like 90-something degrees down here. We're outside with no shirts on, shoes. We're doing push-ups on the blacktop, black crap getting all over your hands. You try to do crunches in the parking lot, 90 degrees, and the humidity is ridiculous down here. And then you're running back and forth with 250-pound guys on your back down the parking lot, guys puking, guys barely being able to walk back in the, inside the building afterwards. And on a few occasions, there's been guys, there were a lot of fights because of that, because, guys just got treated like damn animals. And actually animals get treated better than that nowadays. So, there'd be guys really trying to crawl for the door. These guys would grab you. This one guy I remember, he was trying to crawl for the door. They would grab him by his ankles and drag him back into the middle of where the rings were. And the guy'd he was crying, man, trying to crawl for the door. I mean, you're talking about a grown man, 250 pounds, trying to crawl out the door crying because he got beat up that much and he just couldn't take it anymore. And guy's been speared. Chase Tatum, I don't even remember this guy. He was back in WCW in the day. I think he wrestled as Chase Tatum, but he was with that rapper group against Kurt Hennig and all those guys back in the day. And he was a big guy, man. He actually speared a guy through the wall, right through the wall into the locker room, and back then, that was shit. That's just what they did back then. If you did that now, you'd probably have a lawsuit, but it was that brutal. And people, when I tell them the story, people don't believe it. They think you're just hyping it up just because you went through it. And I'll tell you, it was the worst thing I ever went through. I couldn't even walk. After 3 days, I didn't even know how I was going to get to the airport in the plane. I could barely drive my car. I was so sore.
I hear so many people saying, oh, that's easy. It's this, it's that. You saying about, guys that have come out of American football, come out of, the army, out of the forces, and they couldn't cope, and they couldn't cope with it as much as it is the physical side. It was the mental side. It's the mental side as well, isn't it, Alan?
Well, I mean, first off, if you're not physically ready to do that 3-day trial when they had it, honestly, it didn't matter how much heart you had. You probably weren't. Your body would have just shut down. Because I literally, when I went back to the hotel, and I'm not making this up, I would roll out of bed and fall on the floor and crawl to the bathroom. I couldn't even move my legs. I was cramping up so bad. I was taking, like a leave. I was eating bananas. I'm trying to do everything I could just to try to get back to that school. And then, when I got there, it kind of just, I'm pretty tough mentally. So my brain just shut off and said, look, man, you got to do it. Just get your butt in there and let's get it done, man. No matter how bad it was. And it was terrible. And I remember after the first day, the second morning, and when I rolled out of bed and was crawling in the bathroom, I tied a towel onto the doorknob of the bathroom just to lower myself on the toilet just to go to the bathroom. And then I had to grab the towel and pull myself back up. That's how bad it was.
Fucking hell. You don't, I mean, we saw it on TV. Louis Theroux, who's like an investigator.
Oh yeah, I was going to bring him up. Yeah,
investigative journalist, obviously well known worldwide now. But I remember at the time when that episode dropped, and they were drilling him hard, and he didn't.
Yeah, I was in that video.
Were you? Right, okay.
You see me a lot in that. If you watch it again,
I need to watch it again. But yeah,
and you know what happened to him? He ended up puking. I mean, now Louis, let's be honest. He wasn't a physical specimen.
No.
But Sarge, he kind of hit a nerve on Sarge because if you remember that video, he was at I think the arena up in Knoxville or something when he had a Nitro or something there. So Sarge used to take the rings to the, he got paid extra to take the rings and stuff. So he's doing it because Sarge is a hardworking dude, So Louis approached Sarge and was asking him stuff, and Sarge really ain't the kind of guy you want to like pull some strings on. You know what I mean? Because he just doesn't play. And he kind of hit a nerve with Sarge, and Sarge's like, all right, you want to see how it is? Come down to the power plant. That's when he invited him down to the power plant. So Louis come down to the power plant, and I'm pretty sure Louis probably regretted that.
Unbelievable watching that back,
He actually puked 2 or 3 times that you didn't see.
I am not surprised. They should have shown that. They should have shown that to really depict.
Well, they showed him puking once, I think, but he puked way more than once. I can guarantee that.
Oh my days! I think now would be a great way of progressing to you as the character and stuff like, and getting on TV. How long was that coming from the power plant and then being on television?
Yeah. So I did my tryout in July of '98 at the power plant. So in October, a couple months later, I moved. Me and my fiance at the time moved down to Atlanta. I was training there a little bit. So this was October when I started training because they invited me back because I was the only one that made it through the tryout. Then let's see, September, Kid Roma and I had our first match. They closed up the old power plant where I came up in, and I did my 3-day tryout. They moved to where the corporate offices were, and it was in Smyrna, Georgia. And so they had I don't know if you ever seen the pictures of the new power plant they had at the end. They had 4 rings set up, an incredible weight room. They had upstairs, they had cardio stuff. They had great locker rooms for the men and women. It was a top of the line facility. So I remember we were in there one day, and this was around September. Kevin Nash walks in because Kid Romeo had been talking to him about, getting on a Saturday night. And me and Sam, which is Kid Romeo, we used to work a lot together. We did some indies and stuff while we're training at the power plant, to get better. And he loved working with me. Maybe I love working with him because, we knew what each other did. He knew he could trust me. We both looked good body wise. So he actually is the one to help me get on TV quicker than all the other guys because he already had it set up with Kevin Nash. And, thank God he chose me. That way we got to do a match in Roanoke, Virginia. And that's when they did the Saturday night tapings on every other Wednesday. So if you were on TV for 2 Saturdays, you had to do 2 matches or 2 segments or whatever they had you doing. So we actually ended up wrestling 2 matches that night. And he went over the first match. I went over the second match. And that's kind of how him and I started feuding in WCW on the Saturday night show.
Was it still pretty well run up to that point, WCW? We heard about everything towards, the end there, like the 2001. How was it for you working there at that time early on? Could you foresee that it was in any trouble?
Well, to be honest with you, man, all the guys in the power plant, man, we got treated a little different than the rest of the talent because they considered us still to be training, even though we're getting on TV, they wanted us to come to the power plant after we got off the road. And after a while that did end, but we were I think most of the guys would probably say the same thing. We were wrapped up in trying to get out of the power plant and work hard that we honestly, myself, I can say this for sure. I really wasn't looking at the company as a whole, how it was being run. I just know I was getting on TV and I know I'm getting a chance to do, something that I wanted to do all my life. So I honestly, I really wasn't paying attention to all until we started getting on TV regular on Nitro. And, then I became friends with, DDP, Page and Kevin Nash. And I traveled with some of these guys a little bit. Then I started noticing, kind of the stuff, but then, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out once we got in there that they really didn't have a direction, especially with me. They just throw me on TV sometimes. Just like, for example, the last Greed pay-per-view, I wasn't even booked on it. I was just there because I was down in Florida watching some of my buddies that play pro baseball and at spring training. And I was going to go to the show anyway, and I was booked on the Nitro. And so while I'm at the arena, they're like, "Hey, we're going to put you in the first match." I'm not even booked on the show, so they didn't know what they were doing,
Would you have rather been better prepared in that, or were you just used to how it was run at that point?
Oh, you mean better prepared for the match when they threw me in that match?
Obviously you want to know who you're facing, but things change, plans change. We hear about all this in a backstage capacity. Yeah.
No, I wrestled Easy Money. I don't know if you ever saw that match, Jason Jett Easy Money on the last Greed pay-per-view. In my opinion, it was one of the better matches on that card, not just because we were involved in it, but I mean, we kicked off the show, man. We did some good, incredible stuff in that. And, man, that was a great match. That was one of my favorite WCW matches for just being thrown together. But me and Jason had wrestled on some actually, we did a couple of WCW house shows together when he started. And then, we wrestled a little bit. And so, I mean, we went over the stuff at the arena and stuff. So we had a great match, and it was comfortable. And we were prepared for that match.
How is it going out to an arena, a sold out arena? How are you, mentally going into the matches and coming out? How did you feel? How was your psyche?
I tell you what, I don't really get nervous a lot of times, but you actually get a little nervous because, and especially with the power plant guys, they would always tell us all the time, listen, you guys screw up, you're fired. So you had that extra burden on your back thinking, God, man, I got to have the best match of my career, or I'm going to get fired. And that's just the way it was. I don't know if they said that for motivation for us or they actually meant it, but I believe they actually meant it because Paul Orndorff usually didn't play any games. He'd tell us that all the time, made us a little nervous. But other than that, honestly, I don't know how everybody else feels until you really do that several times. You kind of got blinders on. When I'm walking out of the arena, I know there's, 20,000 fans or whatever there, and you really don't see them all. You're kind of concentrating. You're running the match through your head. At least for me, I can't speak for everybody, but when I walk out to the arena, man, I'm thinking, man, this is awesome. It's always what I want to do. I got to make sure I don't screw the match up. I got everything on my mind. So I'm really not, it's kind of weird, man. It goes by so fast. It seems like you walk out there in the match, even if you have a 15-minute match, it seems like 5 minutes. But by the time I wrestled in All Japan against the great Muta one night, it was a main event match. So, I mean, if anybody knows anything about wrestling, Muta, he is revered in Japan. He's basically a god. Like, that guy probably can't walk down the street. He's, that's how much people respect that guy. And I started, by then in my career, I would tell myself, sink it all in, man. Go out there and really look at stuff and take it all in, And until then, when I started wrestling Japan, that's when I really started focusing on, having fun and really, really soaking everything up, But it takes a while to do that.
I'll get into All Japan and your run there because there's some bits I want to ask. But also, I'd be remiss not to ask about developing the Kwee Wee character. And obviously the vibrancy, the attire you wore, the character. How was it developing that character and putting all that stuff together, man?
Well, so Mike Sanders and myself, which Mike Sanders was in the Natural Born Thrillers, we started doing a gimmick. We come up with a AA team because I'm Angry Allan, he's above average. So we started doing that on WCW Saturday nights and stuff. So my hair, I had it spiked up and it started getting longer and longer and I wouldn't cut it. And I mean, I was having kind of pretty thin hairline, but my hair was visibly noticeable when I walked out, and it was something I did just because I wanted to be different. So then one day me and Mike were walking through an airport, I believe it was in West Virginia, and Terry Taylor and Vince Russo was sitting there, and we walked up to him. Of course, we were going to say hi. We didn't want to snub him, because the heat in the wrestling business. So, we walk up and say hey to him, and they're sitting there looking at me like, what in the hell is up with your hair? Like, you actually wear that shit like that? And I'm like, I'm trying to be different, man. What do you, and then, so they were talking for a minute, me and Mike, they were talking. He's like, hey, listen, we got an idea for you. Let's talk at the next show we're at, and I'll tell you what I got on my mind. So we go to the next show. I was talking to Vince, and he's like, listen, this is what I want to do. He told me to watch videos of a character on Saturday Night Live. I think it was called The Mango. It was Chris Kattan. He was that little guy who used to do some kind of arrogant, character, kind of like Kwee Wee was. But he had and I don't remember this character on Saturday Night Live until I went and bought a tape, and the old VCR tapes. And I started watching these matches or these Saturday Night Lives on this tape, and then he had they called David Spade, I believe, was called Kwee Wee, like Kiwi. So they originally started. He wanted me to pattern myself after that character, and so I came up with kind of the pink, and I kind of came up with my hair like that just because it was crazy and it was weird, and I started putting glitter in my hair and stuff, and then it started looking pretty cool. We were kind of evolving the character a little bit, and then Saturday Night Live actually got a hold of WCW and said they were going to sue them for the Kiwi name because we were using the name, and they thought it was, off of that. So they changed it to Kwee Wee, which, I mean, in my opinion, is probably the dumbest name in wrestling history. But, because nobody ever says it right. Everybody else, even my friends will say like, hey, Kiwi. I'm like, no. I said, you morons, it's Kwee Wee. I mean, we're like best friends and people are still calling me Kiwi. Yeah. How do you expect fans to call you Kwee Wee when your damn best friends can't even remember the name, So, and I had the Angry Allan off of the Kwee Wee character, which, Mike Tenay, I would always ask him to say, Angry Allen or Bobby Heenan or Stevie Ray from he used to commentate and stuff.
Yeah.
And Mark Madden, because we talked to these guys before the matches and they'd ask us if there's anything we wanted to say or, wanted them to say. So, the announcing team did as well as they could, but, and that was part of the WCW being WCW. Sometimes the announcers, when like if I had a company and I got these young guys coming out here, I would have my announcers keeping 150% focus on that match, what these guys are doing, and try to put them over. They'd be talking about the main event and the next pay-per-view 2 weeks away during our matches, which I don't know if you remember that, but they did that all the time. And that was kind of frustrating. You're out there busting your ass for this company that Paul Orndorff's telling you don't have a good match, you're going to get fired. And the announcers aren't even talking about the match. I mean, to me, that's one thing WWE does way better than WCW, was you actually concentrated on in-ring when they're wrestling and not talk about something that happened 2 weeks ago or something that's going to happen in 2 weeks. So that was kind of frustrating,
I can only imagine, also going back to that, at least saying how people couldn't get the name right. How it was it's a distinctive name, Kwee Wee. That's what I wanted to say. At least, it hadn't been done before. So,
but nobody could ever get it, man. I don't know. It's just one of them things. Like people even now, I'll post a video or I'll post a picture of a podcast or something with KWEEWEE. And then people will type, in the comments, KIWI, look, it's Kiwi. And I'm like, it's incredible how people just don't get it.
How was it having Sharmell? Obviously, she was known as Paisley, Sharmell Huffman, as your valet. Because I remember it very well when she used to come out with you. How was that doing the stuff with Sharmell?
Obviously, well, see, let me go back to the WCW No Direction. First, they had a couple different women with me. I don't know if you remember BB from WWE. She was the Dudleys put her through the table. She was Barbara Bush.
Absolutely.
She wore the medic gimmick and stuff. So she was my very first valet. Her Papaya they called her Papaya. So she was on a couple of the vignettes we shot where she's ironing clothes when we're in the wardrobe area, and that's when Paisley. I was this character Kwee Wee was supposed to be like it would mesmerize people. Like you'd see me and see like I don't know what is about this guy, but like I'm falling in love with the guy for the women. And then the guys would just be mesmerized, like, oh man, it's the Kwee Wee, And so that they had Sharmell started fall for me. So then, but they gave me one other lady that Mark Madden brought in from Pittsburgh. She was a damn stripper at a strip club. And she just had big boobs. I mean, she wasn't ugly or nothing, but she didn't have much of a body other than she had freaking Dolly Parton boobs. You know what I mean? So she come out in this little tight pink dress. I remember I picked her up. She was only with me a week, maybe two. And I picked her up and kissed her all the way to the ring. I got major heat with my wife over that. And she was only there for like a week or two. So, and then that's when they started bringing Paisley in, which I'm glad I wish I would have had Paisley from the get-go because she was amazing on the mic. And to be honest with you, I didn't really even want to do this Kwee Wee character because I wasn't comfortable. I'm not homophobic by any means.
No.
But the character was kind of flamboyant, and people thought, I was gay. People still think I'm gay. And, guys ask me all the time if I'm gay. And, but, I'll joke around with my friends and stuff, but, no, I'm not gay. I don't have anything against gay people, but, it's just one of them characters where, I didn't think I was that good at doing it, and they thought I was great at it. So, I mean, I don't know. But, when they brought Paisley in, she'd talk a little bit, which I was really comfortable with because she's great on the mic. She's got a great voice, and she knows how to carry herself because she's had a little more experience than I did, on TV, obviously, because she was there way before I got there. We got along really good, man, her and I. And then once she started falling in love with me in the wardrobe area, that got heat with Prince Ikea because she was with the artist formerly known as Prince Ikea. So him and I had a couple good matches, man, and I was really excited to work a program with him because, like I said before, from the Power Plant, I had a lot of respect for this guy, and I knew he was a real deal. And he's a great worker. So we had a couple good matches. They had me beat him on Nitro. I'm sure nobody remembers that. But it was actually in Cincinnati, Ohio, where I'm from originally in Ohio. And, all my family was there. So it was kind of a special moment for me getting to beat Prince Ikea on a Nitro with all my family there. So, then I'm thinking, this is for real. They're letting me win a match on Nitro against somebody that has been the Cruiserweight champion. So I'm thinking, things are going pretty good right now. But, hindsight, they really weren't. They didn't really know what they were doing.
How were your dealings with Eric Bischoff? You said about Vince Russo as well previously. How were your dealings with Bischoff and Russo at that time?
Well, I tell you what, man, I don't have anything bad to say about either one of them, and I'm the type of guy that would if I did. They both treated me good, man. They showed me respect. They talked to me. They didn't treat me like I was beneath them. And I don't know if you remember when we started off doing the R&B security, Russo and Bischoff security, and a lot of the guys from the power plant, which is me, Mike Sanders, I think Mark Jindrak was in there, and a couple other guys that weren't really on TV. I think Sonny Siaki might even have been in that. And we'd come out with them, we'd walk with them. We had yellow R&B security shirts on. And that's how we got our first little, deal, like on main TV before I started doing the Kwee Wee. Which was good. Anytime you get TV time is good, even though you're not really a character, nobody knew who you were. But those guys treated me awesome. And then I don't know if you remember towards the end when Bischoff actually took over WCW. He was in the back. He was running the whole show for, several weeks. I don't really know the time frame, but and he was there and he was treating me ridiculous. I mean, Janie Engel, which was a lawyer for WCW, would come to the locker room every week and come and get me and say, "Hey, Mr. Bischoff wants to talk with you." And I'm like, the first time she did that, I'm thinking, "Oh shit, am I getting fired or what's going on?" Because, they never come to me and say, "Hey, Bischoff wants to talk to you." So I go in the office, sit down with Eric, and man, Eric's putting me over like $1 million. He's telling me I'm going to be, one of his next big guys. I'm going to make a lot of money in this business. And, I'm fired up, man. I'm sitting here going, hell yeah, let's do this shit. And he's like, he wanted me to do a job for Rick Steiner that night. And I put Rick Steiner over real hard. And because I guess people thought Rick was getting a little soft, so they wanted to put him over. And so I put him over, and Eric came backstage and talked to me afterwards and said that was exactly what he wanted. And, he's glad that I'm filling the shoes that he wants me to fill. So then he'd call me the next week, and same thing. Janie'd come and get me, have a meeting with me saying, he's happy with what I'm doing. Just keep doing it. And, I'm going to make a lot of money, and I'm going to be one of his next big guys, So, I'm thinking, shit, this is unbelievable. This is everything I work for. And then of course they come in there one day right out from underneath them, and, Vince bought the company. So I'm not really sure what happened there, but I got a couple ideas, but after that, then everything went downhill for most of the power plant guys.
In your opinion, I know everyone had the platform. There was the talent was all on TV and stuff, but which guys were, in your opinion, were underrated at the time that deserved more TV time? Maybe
the guys that deserve more TV time.
Yeah, maybe some guys that you felt were like really, really good, but just didn't get the exposure that they should have got. Maybe.
Yeah, well, there was probably a couple, myself included. But at that time, if you remember, man, they had like all the guys I was in the power plant with. You had the Natural Born Thrillers, which was Mike Sanders, Mark Jindrak, Chuck Palumbo, Sean Stasiak, Sean O'Hare, John Huger, Rick Cornell, which was Reno. I don't know if I'm missing anybody or not, but if you remember, those guys were like on every other damn segment. They'd come out of the ring, they shot vignettes backstage the whole show. They were. If there was 10 segments on Nitro, they had to have been at least 5 or 6 of them, I would say at least. Whether they were just little vignettes they pre-taped or they were actually live in the ring. And then, a lot of times those guys would have matches. So they're in 5, 6 segments of the damn Nitro, which, you're getting incredible TV time, which I was happy for them. Yeah. But, I would have liked to have done more. Elix Skipper, they gave him a lot of airtime. He was with Team Canada and stuff, and he was a good buddy of mine from the power plant. He was a cruiserweight champion as well. But they just, I was supposed to win the cruise. I don't know if you remember this. We were actually in England. I can't remember what city we're in. Maybe Birmingham. I can't remember. But we did a match with the cruiserweights. We had Rey Mysterio, Kidman, Lash LaRue, Elix Skipper, Chavo Guerrero, me, and there may have been somebody else, but I can't remember. So I go over, they tell me backstage, Fit Finley's my agent. He's telling me, him and Honor tell me, look, you're going to win this match. Then they wanted Ming to come out because we were kind of, me and Ming were kind of a tag team there for a minute. So Ming come out, hoisted me on his shoulders after I won the match. I just beat Kidman, Mysterio, Chavo Guerrero Jr., I beat all these guys. I'm thinking shit. And they tell me I'm going to win the next pay-per-view in Milwaukee against Mike Sanders. They tell me I'm going to win the belt, the cruiserweight belt. So, I'm excited, man. I'm like, shit, everything's working out just the way it's supposed to. So then I don't know if you remember that match with Mike Sanders. They actually changed their mind the day of the show, and they kept the belt on Mike. We still had a good match. I wasn't the type of guy that, was like, and I wasn't in a position to bitch about shit like that. You know what I mean? So I just kept my mouth shut and did whatever they said. And, it never got me anywhere really. But looking back on it, I kind of wish I would have said something, but that's just, that goes back to the WCW not having any direction.
How was life on the road for you in WCW? Were you cool with traveling, or did you find it tough traveling the roads?
No, I was good with traveling. My ex-wife wasn't too good with it. When we moved to Atlanta, I told her, I said, this is what I want to do. If you don't want to be a part of it, I gotta put all my time and effort in this. It's going to be rough on the marriage. So if it's something you want to do with me, then, we'll get married and we'll do it. And she was all in, But once I started traveling, she kind of started changing her mind a little bit, which is understandable. I was gone quite a bit. Sometimes we go up and do shows for WCW up in Tennessee. We do, 4 or 5 shows up there. I'm gone Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night. I'd be back home Thursday, Friday, sometimes Thursday I get home for a day. And which I know it's tough, but, that's just the way it was. There was nothing else I could do, So I like traveling. It was kind of rough on all us power plant guys because they didn't pay for none of our hotels. They didn't pay for none of our rental cars. And to be honest with you, man, we weren't making a lot of money. I remember my first contract with WCW, I was getting $500 a week. So, you're $500 a week. You're on the road 4 or 5 days. You got to get a rent a car for the whole time, which isn't, it's not $50. You got to pay that a day at least for a rent a car. And then you got to get a hotel room. You want to stay in a nice hotel room, you're going to pay. So all of us would sleep, 7 deep in a hotel room, get fold out cots, and, there'd be 2 of us in each bed, and just to save money because we weren't making a lot of money. So, we'd all share, we'd crunch into a rent a car, 5, 6, 7 deep, stop at the hotel, sleep 5, 6, 7 deep, save money. And then, that's just the way it was. But to me, that was it was kind of part of the fun, because you build up friendships with these guys. And that part of the road was fun, it was rough sometimes, but it was fun. I wouldn't take it back.
Some people think the glamour, don't they? The glamour when you're working for the big companies, especially years ago.
Yeah.
But there's the reality right there. Having to really, crunch your paycheck. Absolutely.
Yeah.
A lot of people,
well,
a lot of us thought it was glamour. You're on the big money. Everyone was on the big money, living life.
Yeah. Well, everybody I see nowadays, like, if you, like a lot of these guys, they end up working real jobs after WCW because you didn't make the kind of money where you can just quit working the rest of your life, and a lot of the guys were young too, when I quit working with them, it was in 2003 or no, 2002 or whatever, something like that, when we got released from WWE. I'm still a young guy, I'm in my 30s. I can't just quit working because I never made $1 million a year. I couldn't just quit. So, I've had, I got a CDL. I drive a truck, a semi truck. People see me. I used to drive a flatbed car hauler for Mike Sanders' dad because his dad owned a tow truck company. People would actually recognize me and say, damn, what are you doing driving a tow truck or something? Like you're a millionaire, but they don't get it. You can't explain it to them. You just say, listen, I got some free time. My buddy owns a company. I'm just working, because they don't get it.
You spoke there about WWE. You were signed, but you never wrestled there. Could you talk to us a bit more about that?
Well, yeah. I wrestled with WWE. I just never done TV for WWE. I did local television for WWE down in Louisville, Kentucky. And so I get a call from Johnny Ace, which Johnny Laurinaitis, people remember him. He was on Raw and stuff there for a while. So he calls me up, and I'm actually driving a tow truck for Mike Sanders' dad. Him and I were driving that day, and because we didn't really know what was going on. After they bought the company, they just told us, we picked up your contracts. Just go home. We'll be getting in touch with you to to see what direction we're going to go. Which I know they had a direction. They didn't have a direction for us being on TV at all, I believe. They picked our contracts up basically so we could go up to HWA in Cincinnati, which Les Thatcher was running that. And then Danny Davis was running the OVW in Louisville, Kentucky. So they picked all of us up. We go up there, we wrestle with, and they had guys in Cincinnati. They had guys from the Memphis territory, which was WWE developmental talent. They just moved it down to Cincinnati and Louisville. They stopped the Memphis territory. So in that group, you had Umaga, which was, a top star in WWE. Which is in the Samoan dynasty. His brother Matt Inoue, which was Rosie, the superhero Rosie. You had Steve Bradley. You had I'm drawing a blank on some of these guys. You had a guy that was with what was his name? He was with Murdoch. They were a tag team in WWE.
Lance Cade.
Lance Cade. Yeah. I'm sorry, man. I can't remember his name, and he passed away. So I'm sorry, I forgot his name. So Lance was there in Memphis. They had all the guys that they had from Memphis end up becoming on WWE TV. So basically what we did was we went down there, trained with these guys, did independent shows with them with Les Thatcher. We had shows like every Friday, Saturday nights. We trained all week at Les's school. So it was almost like we were back at the power plant. We had to go down there. We're like, after we get off TV, all of us power plant guys was like, man, this is a bunch of horse shit. Now we're going down here. We're still basically in the power plant because we got to go to the school every morning at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, stay to a little 4 o'clock in the afternoon, get treated like crap, act like we don't know what we're doing, which, we had a lot to learn still. Don't get me wrong, because you can always learn in wrestling, but we were on TV and now we're back to square one. So it did frustrate a lot of the power plant guys. Then we'd go down on Sundays, we'd go down to Louisville, Kentucky. They did a local TV show down there in Louisville with John Cena, Randy Orton, Batista. You had the Basham twins. You had Rico, which was Chuck and Billy. You had all these guys down there, and there's more. I just can't remember all of them. And they all actually were on WWE. Well, we had Charlie Haas and Russ Haas, which was from the Memphis area. So, we're wrestling all these guys. And nothing against the guys. We all got along great, and they were great guys. But there was a noticeable difference on how they got treated and how the WCW Power Plant guys got treated. I would say, I'm not speaking for anybody else, but I would say, in my opinion, looking back on the whole situation, which I thought at the time, but of course I wasn't going to say anything because I'm doing what I'm told. I'm still nobody. So they basically had us go down there and train these guys, help train these guys, get them ready for TV, and then they got rid of us 2 weeks before Christmas. And they got rid of most of us. Now, a couple of them stayed, but they didn't do anything with them. They, the whole WCW invasion angle, they dropped the ball with that thing. It could have been so much better than what it was. It was just, it was just bad.
It was the guaranteed contracts, wasn't it? For the top guys that still had their contracts in place, they didn't need to work.
Yeah, exactly. Of course we weren't at that level yet. We didn't have nothing guaranteed. Our contracts was you could fire us today and we get paid 90 days. That was our contract. So after they released us, we got paid 90 days, And then that's when I started wrestling overseas. I was wrestling in Australia. I was wrestling with All Japan in the WWA. So I was still getting paid from WWE, and they didn't have a no compete clause in my contract, so I could still work, and make good money.
That's cool, man. That's cool. I want to now segue into your time in All Japan. Now, I was reading, obviously,
okay.
and you alluded to Great Muta and getting in the ring with the legend. You got in there with Kaz Hayashi as well. And you went on to team with Elix Skipper. Obviously, you spoke about Elix and Mike Awesome. How was it? How was it getting to Japan, Alan? And, the culture there. Everyone I know who's been to Japan loves Japan.
Let me tell you something, man. The culture in Japan, we'll start off with that.
Yeah.
That's what hooked me in Japan. The first time we go to dinner, you learn new stuff every day over there. So, I'm American, first time I've ever been to Japan. So when you go to dinner, the thing I like about the Japanese culture is, man, you can order food and drinks or whatever you want to order, but nobody at that table will touch anything until everybody gets a drink. Like if they bring your drinks out first, there's nobody at that table even thinking about drinking their drink until everybody gets a drink. And then, you kanpai, and then everybody drinks. Same with food. Nobody eats nothing until everybody gets their food, which I love that. And another part of that culture is everything over there means something. You could have a job. You could be a wrestler. You could work at Kentucky Fried Chicken there. You can work in a drugstore, 7-Eleven. They got them on every street corner. Every job means something. Nobody degrades anybody over there for being, having a less paying job than the other guy. That's what I love about that culture, man. Everybody means something over there. But which brings me to wrestling Muta, Kawada, which Kawada's that dude's a killer, and he's a Japanese legend, man. So I got to wrestle Kojima. He's the new, at that time, he was the most over babyface in Japan, man. He was a rising up and coming star, and everybody knew who Kojima was. I mean, I got to wrestle all these guys. I wrestled Kaz Hayashi. He was actually in the office in All Japan at that time because of Muta. Him and Muta were good buddies from WCW. I wrestled Kaz, in WCW, so I was familiar with him. So there was another guy that was always on those tours, Jerry Toot. He was the Wall in WCW. Mm-hmm. He wrestled as, let's see, Mike Awesome's name was, what was his name over there? Oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. One of their names were Gigantes, I think it was. I think that might have been Jerry. Well, Jerry's the one that actually got me over in All Japan because, I was really good friends with Jerry. So he called me up. I always talk to him every day pretty much. So we were talking about All Japan because I said, dude, I'd love to come over there, man. Just, see what you can do. So he talked to Kaz and Muta, and, they knew me from WCW. So they're like, yeah. And at this time I was doing a Funkster gimmick, which I had long hair. I let my hair keep growing long. It was down to my shoulders. I had a Hulk Hogan mustache, the handlebar mustache. I dyed blonde so it looked better. And I was doing that character, which was fun, but I didn't really want to do it. But again, I'm doing whatever I can to get a paycheck. Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. So I always get not forced into these characters, but it's either I do it and get paid, or I sit at home and don't get paid. So it's not too hard to weigh which option you want. So I go over there, All Japan Wrestling. Wrestling with which one of the guys they had the Amazing Red. He was kind of independent worker, and he later on went on to do some TNA stuff. I can't remember, maybe we already did a TNA together. So he was called Red Mysterio, and he wore a Rey Mysterio mask. They had him doing like a Rey Mysterio gimmick. They had me doing a Hulk Hogan gimmick, and then they had Sean Hernandez, which is in TNA Impact, he was doing stuff with Conan and stuff. I don't remember what he's even doing now, but he was doing a Kurt Angle gimmick. He had the singlet on in USA, singlet, and he'd come out with. So we all we were doing 3-man tags as a gimmick tag team over there, which was, it wasn't what I wanted to do, but it was cool because I got to wrestle with these guys that were unbelievable. All their talent over there was great, even the old guys, and everybody treats you over there like you belong there. It ain't like over in the States, even though you've been wrestling for 10 years or 5 years or however long it's been, you wrestle over in the States, you go into a WWE locker room after wrestling over in the States, they're not going to treat you like one of the boys until you earn it, And over in Japan, it's the opposite. You're already one of the boys, So, I'm backstage, I'm talking with Great Muta. I mean, I'm almost marking out myself because these guys are incredible, And, I got opportunities to wrestle all these guys. I wrestled Kawada, which was great. And I like it stiff anyway because I was brought up in the power plant with Sarge, and he, we just all trained stiff because that's what we were used to. And that's exactly the style you need to wrestle in Japan, because if these guys hit you and they hurt you, you got to fight back or you'll never go over there again. So, I'd fight back with these guys. I got respect from these guys. And, I'm not a pushover. I can take some physical pain. So, these guys knew that I wasn't just going to cry about them hitting me. I'd hit them back. And, I got along with all these guys and I got their respect the first time I was there. So, that meant a lot to me, getting respect to Great Muta and Kawada. And I wrestled with a guy named Kaya over there, Tio Kaya. I can't remember how you pronounce his name, but that guy was incredible, man. He lived in Hawaii, but he'd been training over there in the dojo, and he was unbelievable, man. And he treated me like, I was his brother, man. So all those guys over there were great, and I love working with all those guys.
That's incredible. What listeners, there's the mystique of the Great Muta and stuff, but getting in there with him, what did you take away after having the matches with Muta? Getting in there with a legend.
Yeah, just like before though, that stuff happened so fast. Like, all I'm thinking is when I remember I went to the arena and Kaya told me, he goes, "Hey man, you're working and Umaga was there as well." So him and I tagged up a lot Me and Kaya and Umaga would tag up a lot and wrestle like Kawada and these guys. So I remember they told me, they're like, "Hey man, you're wrestling Muta tonight." And I was like, "Holy shit!" Like, I am, for real. I didn't believe him. And so then I go back and look at the board, and my name's in Japanese, but I know I can recognize it because I've seen it. So, and I see me and him, and I was like, "Holy shit, they weren't lying." So I go back to, and this is an incredible story. This is something that would never happen in the States. So I go back to the locker room. I'm like, when you're over there in Japan, you're like, Muta, yes, like you almost ask his permission to sit down and talk with him. So you're like, may I sit? He's like, yes, please. They call me Funkster. So Muta spoke English, but it wasn't great. And he'd be like, yes, Funkster, have a seat, And so I'm like, yes. I said, I was like, Funkster wrestle Muta tonight. And he's like, yes. He's like, listen, Funkster. He goes, Muta is pretty much saying he's an established wrestler. He's telling me, this is your first tour of Japan. Nobody know Funkster. Muta helped Funkster get over, and and I'm sitting there going, man, this is unbelievable. And then he goes, yes, Funkster, you do all special moves in Muta. Muta do nothing. And I was like, what the? I was like, it's unheard of. I was like, listen, you want me, can we do this? He's like, yes, Funkster, great. You get over. Muta get you over. And, I try to explain this to people, man. That'd be the equivalent of me coming over here to the States, sitting down with Hulk Hogan. That would never happen with none of these top guys at that time in WWE. That wouldn't happen with anybody. I don't care what you say. Unless Vince McMahon physically come down here and said, look, this is what you're doing, and that's the way it is. There is no damn way you'd sit down in any locker room in the States and go to their top guy and him tell you, I'm getting you over. I don't want to do anything. That's why I love Japan. They get it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Two different ways. Totally. Did you get to Ribera Steakhouse, Alan, while you were over there?
Oh yeah. We went to.
I have to ask.
Oh yeah, I got a good story for that. Like, I'm not the biggest guy in the world at that time. I was probably 220. So I'm sitting down there with Umaga, which he's a big dude. I mean, this dude's 400 pounds. You know what I mean? If not more. So we go in there and he's thinking, he goes, he wanted to challenge me to an eating contest. Well, I'm all in because I can eat. So, we sit down and we get a steak. And let me tell you about steak in Japan. It's not cheap. You go to Ribera Steakhouse and you're eating 3 steaks, you better have at least $700 in your pocket. You know what I mean? Well, the office is paying for our dinner. And me, I'm still frugal at this point. I'm trying to save my money. When I go to Japan, I'm not there to spend money. I'm there to make money to take home to the States. So I would take like a suitcase full of canned tuna fish. I'd take a suitcase full of like protein bars and protein powder. And I didn't really spend a lot of money overseas because I was trying to save my money. So when I went to dinner and the office was paying for it, man, guess what? I'm eating. Because I'm eating crap out of my bag the rest of the time. You know what I mean? So we go to Ribera's and I'm hungry. So he was kind of wanting to challenge me, Umaga, to like an eating contest. So we'd get a steak, you'd get a bowl of rice, and you get a salad. So I ate my steak, my salad, and my rice, and I'm still hungry. I'm like, that was a warm-up. So I was like, you ready for another one? And he's like, damn, you already ate that? So he eats his. We ordered another one. And let me remind you that the office is paying for this. I'm not paying for it. That's the only reason I'm ordering another steak. So I order another steak. He orders another one. I eat mine. I eat the rice. I eat the salad. I'm ready to get another one. He's barely finished up the second one. And he's like, dude, you're going to get another one? So I told the waiter, I learned how to speak a little bit of, Japanese while I was there. Cause Kaya helped me because when I'm at a restaurant, I want to know what I'm getting. So I told the waiter Muay Kai, which means one more. And the guy from the office kind of looks over at me and he's like, so he stands up. So I was like, yeah, one more Muay Kai. So he goes to get me another steak and stuff. So Umaga's barely finished his second steak. They bring me my third one. The guy from the office, he walks over to me and goes, Funkster, office say you way too expensive. No more. So, I after my third steak, I couldn't order anymore, but needless to say, I beat Umaga in the eating contest.
That's good going, Alan. That's good going, doing that, man.
And I got my free Rivera jacket.
Oh, yeah, that is absolutely. You've got to have the heirloom of the. I was going to ask about the jacket. That's like.
Well, you know, I got the jacket, but I let a buddy of mine, which I wrestle with in Lucha Libre USA, borrow it for what I can't even remember what reason. I still haven't got it back yet. So thanks for bringing up that story. And I gotta call this guy and get my Rivera jacket back, because if people who don't know Rivera, it's a world famous steak restaurant where all the wrestlers in Japan, they go there and they get their picture on the wall and they take pictures with you and they put your picture on the wall. So they took a picture with me in my Rivera jacket. So I'm hoping I'm on the wall up there somewhere.
I hope you are too. Yeah, and you've got to get that jacket back as well. Yeah, that's like.
Yeah, I'll get the jacket back and shoot you a email with me with the jacket.
How was your time in TNA? You're in TNA. You were part of Rainbow Express with Lenny Lane. Obviously, I remember Lenny Lane in WCW previous to that. So yeah, how was TNA? How was your experiences there?
Yeah, Lenny, man. Lenny's a great guy. I'm still good friends with Lenny. Working with Lenny, man, you can't work with much better than Lenny, man, because he gets it. He wants to get over. He wants to get your opponent over. And him and I got along real well when it came to that. And just overall good dude. So we get to TNA, and we're doing their inaugural show in Birmingham, Alabama, which was great. It was set up great. They had a big arena over there. They had like country star Toby Keith on the show. They had some NASCAR guys there, Sterling Marlin. You know, they had a bunch of NWA legends that they introduced. We had all kinds of good guys over there. We had Ricky Steamboat. We had the Road Dogg and his dad, the Armstrongs, Bob Armstrong, Bullet Bob. They were the agents. So the show was awesome. So me and Lenny go into the first meeting we have when we get there. You know, they're telling us, they're promising us the world. You know, we're going to be their tag team champions. Everything about the tag team they have established is going to be around me and Lenny Lane. So we're going to be their top tag team in the company. They already got the belts on us, but we haven't won them yet. You know, they're telling us all this stuff. We're in there taking promo pictures. We're doing all this stuff. Me and Lenny's thinking, shit, man, we're getting treated like royalty now. We're going to be tag team champs, you know. But then again, in the wrestling business, I never believe nothing until it happens. So, which leads us to the first match we have. Now, I don't have any problem putting anybody over, neither does Lenny, which that's what, makes a good worker is, not arguing about everything that's going on. And it's a work. If you're going to get beat, you're going to get beat. It's a work, it's who cares? So they tell us we're going to be wrestling James Storm and Chris Harris, which were America's Most Wanted in TNA. They became to be one of the best tag teams in TNA. So we're like, yeah, that's fine. We'll put them over. They're like, well, just do this for us because these are young kids. We're trying to get them established. We want them to go over. The whole deal of the match was they were outside getting out of their car. They had their jeans and T-shirts on and whatever, and they had their bags with them. So me and Lenny had Joel Gertner with us. So we're out in the ring. Joel's cutting his little promo, his little, the spiel he does with his rhymes and stuff, which Joel's great. So we're out in the ring, and then all of a sudden they're like, we're waiting on our opponent. And then they show these guys running from their car with their bags, taking their shirts off on the way to the ring. So they wrestle us in jeans. Excuse me. So we have the match. We put them over, which was no problem. I had no problem with it at all. Wasn't upset a bit about it. So then, a couple shows later, the same thing. And then they're going to have a tag team tournament for the belts. So then they have us going over Marcus Bagwell. And people got a nickname for that guy, but I'm not sure what it is. I just know him as Marcus Bagwell. And Apollo from Puerto Rico, which is a great guy. Huge guy, looks great, good worker, stiff as hell. He'll chop you and break your damn chest in half. So we're wrestling Apollo and Marcus Bagwell in the first round of the tag team tournament to win the belts. So, of course, we're going over because we're going to be the champs, right? So we go over that match, and then we go to wrestle. I believe it was a different night. They had the tag team turn, I think, spread out throughout a couple weeks. So then the next match we're going to wrestle is, I can't even remember who it is. We go over. So the final match we get to win the belts, like we were promised, we wrestle AJ Styles and Jerry Lynn, which isn't even a tag team. So this is kind of reminding me of the WCW days where these guys aren't even a tag team and they just threw them together just because they're AJ Styles and Jerry Lynn. And this was kind of even before AJ Styles was even established as anybody. Nobody really knew him at this time. But they knew him around the independent world. He was a great, I'm not saying nothing bad about AJ. I love AJ to death. I've worked him, and he's a good talent and he deserves everything he's got. But they just threw this tag team together. It's kind of reminding me of WCW now. And then they tell us that they're going over. And me and Lenny, and we still didn't bitch. We're professionals. We're just thinking, what in the hell is going on? We're actually a tag team, an actual tag team. And they just throw these two guys together and they're going to put the belts on them after they promised us 150 times that we're going to be the champions. So me and Lenny were like, yeah, we knew it. We just, I don't know what it was. We're like, it is what it is, whatever. And, we're just trying to get a paycheck. We're doing what we're told. And, so of course we're not the tag team champs. They put them on AJ Styles and Jerry Lynn. So, and then we never did become tag team champions. They eventually pushed Lenny out the door and then eventually pushed me out the door. And then I get hurt in Finland. That's another story. Yeah. So then TNA didn't want to use me anymore because I was hurt. So that's basically how I got out of.
Did you go?
I'm sorry.
So you went on to the independents once being let go from TNA.
Well, I was still working in Japan at that time, here and there, whenever I wasn't busy in the States, which was a good thing. So I'm still wrestling in Japan. I get a call from Mike Sanders, says, hey, I got this guy that wants to book you in Europe, in Finland. So I said, what's he going to pay or whatever? So Mike says he's going to pay you this amount of money. And we're only supposed to be there one day. We're flying in, doing the show, and then we're flying right back out the next day. So I'm thinking, that's a pretty good payday, man, for one day at work. Yeah, I'm in. So, and then we get over there, we go to dinner, we have a good time, go out and have a couple of drinks, go back to the hotel, get up next day, we go to the arena. And then I find out me and Mike are going to be a tag team. We're wrestling Elix Skipper and Sonny Siaki, guys from the Power Plant, guys we're familiar with. At this time, Sonny was pretty well established on TNA at this point, from what I remember. Yeah. So, Sonny's telling me he's been doing this split leg moonsault off the top rope. And people ask me, why did you let Sonny do a split leg moonsault? I said, because I came up in the business with Sonny. He told me he could do it. Why would I think otherwise? Him and I are good friends. It ain't like we don't like each other. We talk all the time on the phone. We train together. He tells me he can do a split leg moonsault. I believe him. He said he'd been doing it on TV. I hadn't really been watching TNA at that point, but yeah. So that's how we do. We get in the match. We're doing the match. He does a split leg moonsault, over rotates, hits me in the face so hard it knocked my eyeball out of the socket. My nose was rearranged over on the left side of my face. I broke my orbital socket. My eye popped out of my head. I broke both my eardrums. I had a skull fracture, a broken jaw, and a broken nose. So. And I'm bleeding, pouring blood out of my ears. Ask anybody, if you know anybody in the medical field, ask them how bad it is when you're bleeding out of your ears. It's bad. So I'm pouring blood out of my ears. My eyeball's hanging on my cheek. My nose is over here. My jaw's broke. I got a skull fracture. I'm a mess. I'm back, in the back. They're trying to put blood in me, trying to figure out what the hell's going on before I die. And it was bad. But I do want to say a shout out to Kid Cash, David Kid Cash. He was in the back with me at that time. If it wasn't for him, I might have died. He sat there and he talked me through it and he encouraged me, and which at the time, man, I didn't realize it, but he helped me out so much because I was on the brink of passing out. I was losing so much blood, and he basically sat there and held my hand, and he was a good friend that day, man. I'll never forget that. And the last time I spoke with David, we did an independent show together, man. I hugged him, told him I loved him, and told him he didn't know what that meant to me at the time, because he pretty much saved my life. So they take me to the hospital. Mike Sanders jumps in the ambulance with me. We go to the hospital. Then I'm in a foreign land, dude. I can't see nothing really. My eyes are blurry. I'm bleeding out of my ears. I'm on the brink of dying. I feel like I'm going to pass out. I get to the hospital. I kind of remember most of it, but there's parts that fade in and out because I was just trying to stay conscious. So then I remember Mike leaves. I go in his room, and like I said, I really can't see anything. I asked them to give me a mirror because I wanted to see my face, and they said, no, absolutely not. We're not going to show you your face. They probably thought that would put me in more shock because I look like the Elephant Man. I mean, my face was rearranged. So I remember Mike at that point, he walks in the room, and he's real quiet, and he's kind of weird. And he's like, hey, man, you know, and he really don't know what to say. And so I'm like, hey, man, you know, he's like, I think you're going to get surgery. You're going to be good, man. But he was just weird. He was real quiet. And if anybody knows Mike Sanders, they know he's not quiet ever. So Flash, I was over there for 3 weeks in the hospital. I had surgery. This was a Saturday night. They couldn't do surgery on me till Wednesday because I had air built up on my brain, and they couldn't give me anesthesia because they said it would probably have killed me. So they had to wait till the swelling went down and the air got off my brain. So I go to surgery Wednesday. I'm in the hospital for like 3 weeks. So I'm in the hospital. I'm in the hospital. Can't speak Finnish. Can't eat nothing. Losing weight. Can't shave. I'm used to shaving my body. I got hair growing everywhere. I'm a wreck. But I will say this: they have the most beautiful damn nurses in Helsinki, Finland. If you ever get hurt, go to Helsinki, Finland, to go to the hospital. You will not regret it. I'm having these beautiful blonde-haired 21-year-old women give me a shower every day, and it was awesome. That was the best part of my trip, was the getting showered by the nurses. But so anyway, so flash forward, they put me in a hotel for a couple of days because I still can't fly at this point. I still got kind of air on my brain. My eardrums are still, I can't really hear too good. I can't see nothing. I'm a miserable wreck in the hotel for 2 days because I was addicted to morphine at this point. I was on morphine every day. They took me off cold turkey. I'm in the hotel laying in the floor, crawling around, going nuts because I can't see nothing. I can't hear nothing. I'm hungry. I can't eat because my jaw's wired. You know, it was a damn mess. So I just want to get the hell out of there. I want to get home. I want to get the hell out of there. It's been the worst experience of my lifetime. I almost died. So, so I finally get on an airplane. I get on an airplane. I actually had a shirt on just like this. I like these V-neck t-shirts. So I'm wearing a white t-shirt. I get on an airplane in Helsinki, Finland to go to Paris. And then to get on a connector, I got to get on a connector now with, in this kind of shape, trying to find, still can't see. I need people to direct me to the airport to try to figure out where I'm going. I got nobody helping me. And the reason I don't have anybody helping me is because the guy that took me to the airport, the guy that promoted the show, stiffed me on my money. Didn't even pay me the money for the show. After all this horse shit, the guy didn't even pay me the money. If he's listening, his name's Patrick, which he had called me since and told me he was going to send me the money, but never did. So the guy, I really wanted to beat the shit out of the guy. He drops me off the airport and says, hey, I don't have your money. And I'm like, what do you mean? I said, go to the ATM and get my money. He's like, no, I don't have it. I'm out of money. And I said, dude, after all this shit, you ain't got my money? I said, that's some horror. I said, he goes, well, let me walk you to, I said, dude, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to get out of your car. You're going to get back in the car and you're going to go somewhere and you're going to get the hell away from me before I kill you right here in this fucking parking lot. I said, if you don't have my money, I said, get the fuck away from me. I said, I'm at the breaking point. I said, I went through 3 weeks of hell and you can't even fucking pay me for doing a show for you. I said, I will fucking kill you. I will beat your face against the curb. I said, get the fuck out of here. So he actually goes and parks and he's trying to follow me to the airport. I look back at him. I said, if you do not get the fuck away from me, I will beat you to within an inch of your fucking life. That's how mad I was. So he finally leaves. I get people helping me through the airport to my flight and stuff. So I get on this airplane. Instantly, as soon as we get up to however many feet, my ears start bleeding. People are looking at me like, this guy's Frankenstein. Like, what the hell is going on? So I finally get to a point where I calm myself down. I'm just sitting there for a 3-hour damn flight, bleeding out of my ears, ready to kill somebody because I'm so mad and frustrated with the whole situation. So I get back, I get to the airport. Now I'm walking through the airport. I got blood all over my shirt, my neck. I don't even care. I can't really see that much anyway. I don't give a shit. I want to get home. I don't know if you can imagine seeing a guy, 220 pounds, walking through the airport with blood all over his neck, his shirt pouring out of his ears. Nobody's helping me. No one's saying nothing. Like, I couldn't believe nobody even want to come over there and say, hey, let me get you a napkin. I'm walking through the airport like the damn Frankenstein, like the elephant boy, people staring at me with blood dripping down my face. And so I finally get on the airplane to get back to, now we're flying from Paris, France to Atlanta, Georgia. Finally, I'm going to get home. And that's not an hour flight. That's a good 11-hour flight. So I'm on this flight, and I remember one of the guys giving me a couple pain pills, which I was saving for the worst moment. So I'm thinking I'm going to be on this 11-hour flight. I'm going to pop a couple pain pills, which I never took pain pills before, but I'm actually glad I had them at this point. So I pop a couple pain pills. I'm sleeping. I probably slept for about a good 4 or 5 hours. So, the flight's still going. So I remember I pretty much really got on the plane. I put my seat back, and I'm laying back, and I'm sleeping probably a good 4 or 5 hours. Well, I had to get up and go to the bathroom. So I get up, I go to the bathroom, come back to my seat, and I go to recline my seat again. So I'm laying back in my seat. Well, this lady behind me starts kicking my seat. Like, my head's like bouncing like this. And I turn around, I stand up. I'm like, what in the fuck is she doing? Like, and then she sees my blood all over me. And I look at her, and her husband stands up like he's going to do something. I said, let me tell you something, pal. I said, if your wife fucking kicks my seat one more fucking time, I said, I'm going to bash your fucking heads together. And the stewardess didn't even say nothing. And this was even after 9/11. So, I shouldn't have been saying this, but fuck it, man. This lady was kicking my seat. I got major head trauma. I'm at the point of killing this guy and his wife right in front of their kid. So the guy looks at me, and he's like, he sits back in the seat, and his wife, and they don't fucking move the rest of the flight. They're scared shitless because I told them I was going to beat their heads together, and I would have done it too. Not thinking nothing about it because I wasn't in the mood to fucking get my seat kicked like that. You know what I mean? So I sit back down, no incident the rest of the time. I get back, my ex-wife picks me up at the airport. We go home. The next night, I think I meet Mike Sanders, and the reason I told you this whole story because it's leading up to what Mike Sanders is about to tell me right now. So I meet Mike Sanders in a Mexican restaurant up by the house in Georgia where we live. And so we're sitting there talking, and he said, let me tell you something, Alan. He goes, do you know what that doctor told me when I came in the room that night? And I said, no, what did he tell you? He said, the reason I was so quiet and I didn't really know what to say is, he said, that doctor told me that you were going to die 100% chance, and there was no way you were living through the night. So, yeah, he tells me that after I get home. And, that kind of, I was like, holy shit, he told you that? He's like, yeah, he told you that. Or he told him that. So that's how bad the injury was.
Thank you for sharing that story, Alan. That's a personal story right there. How long?
Yeah.
How long was it for recuperation, man? Off the back of it.
It was about a year.
Yeah.
I mean, for a while, my jaw's wired shut. I was going back and forth up to Nashville because I had an apartment in Nashville because my wife was a nurse in Nashville. We had a house in Georgia. So she actually drove me up to Tennessee, Nashville, where we had an apartment. And then she had really great doctors around her because she was a nurse and she knew a lot of good people up there. So I met this lady that did eye surgeries. I had 4 surgeries on my right eye because my eyes wouldn't close. I had no control over my face. I couldn't even drink anything because all the nerves in my face were shot. Like my mouth was just, it was drooping. Like I had, I guess Bell's palsy, they cause it, where you get like paralysis. It was kind of sort of like that. I had to buy a sippy cup that little kids would use to drink out of, but I actually had to hold my bottom lip and put the cup up to my lip, because if I didn't, my lip would and I couldn't have anything in my mouth. So it was about 9 months when I started getting really good and I started seeing better. I really couldn't drive. I had to have people drive me everywhere. I had family come down from Ohio and pick me up in Nashville because I didn't want to fly. After the experience I had coming home from overseas, there's no way I was getting back on an airplane right now. So then I had my brother-in-law came to Nashville and took me up to Ohio to see my mom and dad, because they were both going through cancer. So they really couldn't fly, or they couldn't come over to Finland at the time because they were both going through chemotherapy and they weren't healthy enough to fly. So, so I wanted to go see my family. So he come and got me. I was, visit my family. Then I got somebody to drive me back. My dad drove me back down to Tennessee. Then I had friend of mine drive me back down to Atlanta, which brings me to about 9 months in, to my recovery. So then I start going to the gym again, training, from square one back in the gym. I was like, holy crap. Like I started all over. So I started gaining weight a little bit. I lost a lot of weight, a lot of muscle. So I started training really hard again. Come about 12 months to the day, I get a call from All Japan wanting me to work again. So I was like, yeah, hell yeah, absolutely. I'm, because at this point I'm not making any money. I'm struggling paying my house payment. My wife's working, but we're going through a divorce at this time, which made it even worse. So I got to go through a divorce. My dog just died. My mom and dad's got cancer. I'm going through all this stuff. So then when All Japan called me and wants me to work again, I'm thinking, man, this is, hell yeah, thank you. So started going back over to Japan and wrestling a little bit, which was good. But shortly after that, they stopped using me because my buddy Jerry, which helped me get over there, Jerry too, he actually died over there one of the tours. He was snorting Oxycontins and, died in his hotel room the last day of the tour. And so then after that, I really didn't go to Japan much. They quit using me, and, then I was doing TNA only at that point, and some WWE stuff overseas in Australia.
Thank you for sharing all that, man. I appreciate you speaking at length about that. And I think just shows the dangers getting in that ring. Young guys now wanting to learn. I think they'll take a lot. They'll take a lot away from that story, man. I'm just glad you lived through it.
Yeah. I mean, you never think anything like that's gonna happen. I mean, there's risks. That's part of the wrestling business.
Yeah.
But I mean, really that. And I talked to Shane Douglas because Shane Douglas was there. And I actually went to a TNA show when I was in Nashville. I had a buddy pick me up there, and he took me to the show just because I wanted to see some of the boys and stuff, So Shane Douglas sees me. He's like, holy crap. He said, that is the worst wrestling injury I've ever seen in my life. He goes, he gives me a big hug. And, of course, I see Kid Cash there. And I really didn't, at that point, didn't realize the impact that Kid Cash had made on me when I was hurt, when I told you the story. So, I thanked him or whatever, but then it wasn't until I saw him like about a year ago when I really told him how I felt about that situation. But he was there, and then, they were like, holy shit, bro, that was the worst wrestling action we ever seen. We couldn't believe it. So, it was crazy, man.
I'd like to ask you, as we're closing out now, about Lucha Libre USA and your run there. How was that?
Yeah, man, I tell you what, Lucha Libre USA could have been something great. We had that locker room had camaraderie like I've never seen before. Even the Mexican guys, the first day we met these guys, we fly out to LA. We're doing a show in a casino out there in Palm Springs. We're outside waiting on the bus drivers got the bus there. We're waiting on everybody because everybody's flying from Mexico, from all over the country. So, so me and John Huger, which is Johnny the Bull from WCW and WWE, he's in the FBI. You got RJ Brewer, which was, he's a great independent worker and did Lucha Libre. He was the main heel in Lucha Libre. You got Liz Mark Jr., you got Charlie Manson you got all these guys that are legends in Mexico. You got all these minis, they call them, like the midgets, El Dorado, Mascara Dorado, whatever, which is a legend in Mexico. You got La Parca, you got all these guys, man. And I remember as soon as we get on the bus, they did this thing on the bus where everybody was on the bus, and then when someone come on the bus, they'd be all like, it was like they were running down or walking down a runway in a modeling show, and we'd all be chatting, whatever it was in Mexican, I can't remember. And I mean, everybody just got along so good. Oh, I'm sorry, Mark Jindrak as well. He was Marco Corleone in Mexico. He was a huge superstar in Mexico. So yeah, I had her name was Tigresa Caliente, which was Raka Khan in TNA. She was kind of like my tag team valet partner, which we got along great. We had some good stuff. So yeah, instantly everybody got along. It was a great locker room. There wasn't none of this WCW stuff where one guy had his locker room. You couldn't go here. Everybody was a tight knit group in that. And they had TV on MTV3 and MTV2, and we started doing some good shows, man. And then they had in Albuquerque, New Mexico. They had that's where our main we filmed the shows at. So we were working with Hard Rock Cafe. We did to film the shows there. It was a great little venue. It was a stage where you had to ring, the fans in front of you and the stage behind you and stuff, which I'm not a big fan of, but it kind of worked at the time for that show for whatever reason. Plus they had great production. They didn't spare any cost on the production and stuff. They had a good money guy behind them that was backing them. And then they had Billy Gunn come on that show. They had Shane Helms, a Hurricane, and a couple other people from WWE. ODB did the show one night. And we had Rebby Sky, which she was, I don't really think she was working. I think she was like a commentator, which she's married to Matt Hardy.
Yep.
So she was a great addition to the team. Everybody got along great, man. So actually Rebby used to help me put on, I used to wear like pink eyelashes, fake eyelashes. So she'd always help me glue them on my eyelashes because I could never do it. And so, yeah, I wrestled, the Blue Demon wrestled there, and that guy's he's like the Muta. He's the Muta of Mexico. You know what I mean? So, yeah, man, it was incredible. It was a great locker room. Everybody got along good, and they had the money. It was just, they had no idea what they were doing in the wrestling business, really. They had the money, they had the backing, they had the TV. They just didn't have the wherewithal to run a wrestling company is the bottom line, I believe.
Do you watch any current wrestling? I ask you guys. I always ask this one.
Yeah, and this is almost embarrassing. I really don't. It's not that I'm burnt out on the wrestling business. It's that, I don't, by no means do I think I'm better than anybody, but I believe that I could have been a wrestling talent like Chris Jericho, Chris Benoit. I've wrestled Eddie Guerrero several times when I was in WWE developmental. We did a lot of house shows together. Eddie always put me over. I always saw myself as a mixture between, and I always tell people this, Eddie Guerrero, Benoit, which, a lot of people don't want to talk about Benoit just because of the situation, which I always got along with Chris, and I never had nothing bad to say about him. He always treated me good. Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, and Chris Jericho. I had that intensity, and Paul Orndorff a little bit. I had that, Benoit, Paul Orndorff. I think I could really turn up the intensity. I had a great body. I prided myself on always eating good and staying in shape and being, cardio shape. There was nobody I couldn't run with in the ring. I just think having given the chance to do Angry Allen and be like that type of wrestling character, I really think I could have went far. And when I see some of these guys that I used to wrestle with, not taking anything away from them, they deserve where they're at. I just believe I should be there as well. I don't think that's offline by saying that. I just believed in my ability, and I believe that I could have been a common household name being in the WWE, and it's frustrating to me that I never got that opportunity.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. I'd also, just before we go, I'd like to ask you, have you got any tips or advice for young budding guys that want to get into the wrestling business?
I'll tell you what, nowadays it's a little different. Like in the States now that WWE owns everything. Even if you're overseas, just get some independent work, get right to where if you get an opportunity to go down to the WWE Performance Institute, you better be right by that point. Because they're starting to pick up a little bit of stuff from the power plant, from what I hear. You got to go through some more rigorous stuff down there. So if you're not in shape to go down, if you get opportunity, which is hard to get in there, do whatever you got to do, meet some people, make some phone calls, try to get in with the right people. It never hurts to kiss a little butt. You know what I mean? But if you do get that opportunity to go to WWE Training Institute, I would say you better be in shape, and you better know what you're doing when you get down there, because you're probably not going to last too long in there. And, that's your one and only shot, really. The way I don't know how else you're going to get into wrestling anymore. TNA, I don't know how you really get in there. But if you get a shot to go to WWE Institute, you better be ready.
Great advice there, Allan. Thank you for that. I'd like you, before we go, I'd like you to plug your social media, and then obviously plug Get Funked as well. You can find me on Facebook or Instagram, Funk Allan. That's FUNKALLAN. Or I think you can just type in Allan Funk, it should pop up. And I interact with people on my social media. You send me a DM, I'll try to get to you. Also, I got a podcast I started about 6 weeks ago. It's called Get Funked.
It's a MWA Podcast Network. You can find us on Twitch. Just type in MWA World. Same with YouTube. You can go to youtube.com, MWA World. Eventually, once we get built up to where we want, we're going to get on, iTunes, Spotify, and all that good stuff.
Absolutely. I look forward to your journey with this.
Also, my show is live.
Yeah.
I'm doing a live show every Thursday night in the States. It's 7 p.m. Eastern time, Thursday nights, live, 7 p.m. Eastern time. And I think we come up with, what time is that in London?
12 p.m. in the UK, Alan. At 12 a.m. 12 a.m. I keep doing this. I keep getting it wrong. 12 a.m. midnight Friday in the UK. There you go. Sorry.
Yeah, because I do it with peers in Australia, and I believe they're 15 hours ahead. So
for you, it's crazy, and it's crazy their time difference even to here. I think he's about 8, 9, 10 hours ahead of me, Piers.
Yeah. Depending on where you're in Australia, it's good 14, 15 hours ahead of the States. But the good thing about our podcast you can subscribe to it on Twitch or YouTube. You can watch it anytime you get a chance. So you don't have to watch it live. Excuse me, but it's a good option to have if you really want to. I've had some good guests, like I said, Molly Holly and stuff, and getting some insight on people like that. Even for the new guys watching, you might hear something you want to hear, and it'll help you out. Who knows?
My guest, all the way from Georgia, by way of Ohio.
Baby.
It is former WCW star, All Japan Pro Wrestling star, TNA star. You know him as Kwee Wee in WCW. Allan Funk, the host of NWA Network's Get Funk, every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time in the USA. You get it midnight here in the UK on a Friday too. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for coming on Stu's Wrestling Podcast today, man.
Yeah, man, I had fun. Thank you, buddy.
A big thank you to Powered 4 TV for putting the episodes up on the on-demand service there. Big thank you to John Scott and Rich Crowhurst for all the support. Really appreciate it week in, week out. Nothing's ever a problem. Also, we're doing Powered 4 TV Big Fight Weekly, the MMA and boxing show with my cousin Rich and John. Have put on these first, it's been fantastic with that. Thank you to Chris Dutton again, as always, for the superb editing. I couldn't do this without him, and fantastic job once again. Thank you to Mike Angus for the intro, as always, to the show. You can find the Stu's Wrestling Podcast merch at WrestleMerchCentral.com. There is loads of stuff, lots of different items that you can get. Mugs, hats, face coverings, t-shirts, hoodies, even the new varsity jacket with embroidered Stu's Wrestling Podcast logo on it. Big thank you once again to Dean and the team for listing my products on there. Great work. And we will see you soon for the next episode of Stu's Wrestling Podcast.